Hello, hello, hello. Welcome again to Otis Frampton Live. Happy 4th of July weekend, or week, I should say, for my American viewers. I hope you got some good plans going on. All right. Looks like we got good audio. Let me just... So just FYI, I'm going to be setting up, when I get a chance, some a little bit more like professional intro type stuff moving forward, so that I got like a video that plays maybe while I'm checking on the audio and stuff. So there's not so much of a break between starting and that's weird, and getting to the good stuff. But for now, we're gonna have to deal with this. All right, so today I'm going to be working on the colors for this solo Star Wars story commission that I've been chipping away at slowly but surely, and I actually have much more done than you see here. This is I'm showing you here the original, or the actual inked lines that I scanned in. And what I did after this was I went in and I cut the foreground characters, the midground characters, and the background characters, and had their line art on their own layers so that I could distinguish them and work on them separately. And then I sent that file to my lovely wife, who is my able flatter, and she flatted the colors for me. And I did a little bit of tweaking on the general colors to get a sort of a sense of where I wanted to go with the piece before I started today. So here's where we're at now, with just a general sort of feeling of how I want the lighting and the overall coloring to go. Put on some color overlays, a couple of effects here. Let me turn those on that just to get things moving a little bit, not too many. But I wanted to get a little bit of a head start before I jumped on today with the show. So that said, I'm just going to jump in, and the first thing I'm going to color actually is, or start the shading on, is the mid characters. So I'm selecting this layer. And the first, I'm gonna color or work on the lighting for the midground characters, starting with Han. He is the main character, and just to give a general sense of my plan here, just to look like I'm actually showing people what I'm doing. So choose that. This thing here is the light source. It's a light hanging over the table. So we got light going out in these directions. It can be a simple thing to do to help you with your lighting plans. If you just create something like that, and then you can always go back to it if you're ever confused. It's not that confusing. There's one light source in this scene, so it's not like there's a really big challenge for remembering it. But just wanted to show what I'm doing. I'll get back to this. Whoops, let's do the right layer. So sometimes when I'm doing stuff like this, I go in and do a really big pass on the lighting, or the shading on a character. Just to get a sense of where I'm going. And then I can go in and chip away or add. I sort of have. Oops. My sort of lighting and shading style. I need to fix this. Is really kind of based on more of a cell shaded look. I guess it's mostly comes from being highly influenced by like Bruce Timm style, Batman the Animated Series style shading. And when I first started working digitally with color, I really didn't do much with color before digital. Just was not comfortable with it. So that simplified style, it allowed me to work my way into coloring. I see much younger artists these days who grew up with digital, and you really tell because they just are so good. It makes me sad. It's cool, but it makes me sad because it's like, oh, if I'd had access to those tools, I probably would have started doing color work long ago, or long before, I should say. I'm not trained at all in terms of my art stuff. It's all, I don't like the word self-taught, or term self-taught. It's kind of a humble brag in a way. It really it's not something that I say. I learned by mimicry and online courses and lots of things. It's not like I taught myself. Experience, doing things played a part. Strangely enough, when I got into doing sketch cards for Tops and Upper Deck and stuff like that, and I had to use markers for the first time and colored pencils, that kind of informed my digital work in some ways. So that was a weird process. Right now, I'm about to start working on a painted cover for an upcoming issue of a comic book, and I'm going to be doing painting in a VR app. To see if I can make that work, because I do like experimenting. I like trying new tech, and this app called, what's it called? Vermilion. It's a painting app, and it's really, really great. It really feels like you're painting in a real space, but with the power of undo. I don't have any training in actual painting, so it's going to be a huge experiment for me, but it's a lot of fun. I am doing a sort of a color. I'm doing a first pass in Procreate on the colors for it, just to give myself a guide for what I plan to do. Because I think if I went in without a little bit of foresight, I'd be pretty lost. But who knows how much that will survive? The saying that no plan survives contact with the enemy. And in this case, the enemy is me and my lack of skills. If you are watching or in the chat, feel free to say hello. You're not gonna. I gotta fix this. It didn't work. I was too. Feel free to say hello. I'd love to hear from you and know that you're watching and hanging out with me. That's better. Might darken Han's hair. It's a little too light. I did a little tweaking of my wife's flats, which I always have to do, but not as much as I usually do. I didn't have that much time, so I got to go back in and that reminds me. Oh, that's all right. I gotta tweak some things based on reference that I collected, but I can do that later. I won't bore you with that. I'm probably gonna pump up the shade a little bit just to give it a little more contrast. There, that looks better. Again, the color overlays and the sort of general sense of where I wanted to take this piece. I do that almost always just to have a be directionally forward thinking. If that makes sense or not. Um, I don't know if other artists do that, but something I do. All right, so let me take care of this next. Whoops, I forgot to save that selection. Let's see if it's still saved. There we go. Nice. Still saved in memory. My line art tends to be very, very clean lined, and I allow myself a little messiness when it comes to coloring. I feel like that puts a little bit of randomness to it, but those lines are usually pretty clean at first. Fairly clean, not always clean, just a little clean. I think I'm gonna have to go back and fix this guy's skin. What these guys need a little bit different skin tone than Han to make him feel a little more alien. I think my wife was sort of just defaulting to Caucasian skin tone, and I mean that's sort of their color, but I want to make them look a little more otherworldly. So, not a criticism, honey. She can get sensitive sometimes to like, did I do something wrong? I'm like, no. You're doing the job of a flatter. It's okay, as long as I'm able to select it easily. So I will have to go back and look at some of these colors to really settle on what I want. And then once everything's shaded, there'll be, also time to look at and see how things are working contrast wise. Like what I mean by that, here I'll show you an example of what I'm talking about. Like for this piece, the focus is Sice Noodles in every way, shape, or form. And so she's the most saturated. The light is all on her. Even her cohorts here are a little hazed out to let her black lines pop. And the foreground characters are kind of dark. The background characters are a little hazy, so that all your attention is focused right there. And so I have to work on that a little bit more, I think, to make sure that the main characters here stand out. I'll probably use a little bit of coloring to do that. I already did that a little bit. I added a color. I don't know if you can kind of see. It's subtle, but there's a little bit of a purple in there in the color on the foreground and the background. I think you really see it there. I don't know. It's subtle, but it's there, and it helps bring them, set them apart. And I added an orangish overlay to the mid-ground characters for the same reason. It helps helps them pop slightly. But I'm also trying to match the original scene to some degree. And if you've seen Solo, you know that was a dark scene. But I can't go that dark or just get muddy. But you can see it's already the forms of the characters are already starting to come together. And this is one of my favorite parts is the initial shading of the characters. I know some artists work light to dark. I tend to work um, with painting in the shadows, and I think that limits me in some ways. But it's so second nature to me. I've tried to work the other way, and it just doesn't flow for me. But it is what it is. I'll keep working on my skill level to hopefully advance it, but I'm not sure what can be done aside from a total shift in my style, which I don't think I want to do. This guy also has some like spots and stuff that'll be fun to paint in. I didn't do it on the line art yet, so I need to touch that up because I knew I'd be painting him in anyway. Sometimes sometimes I work that way when I know that I'm coloring something, which is most of the time. Uh, Coloring my line art, I'll leave things in that I know I'm just gonna do in the colors, so I don't add it to the line art. It's more difficult when you have somebody coloring your work, which is the case on my Oz comic going forward from issue 3. So I gotta be a little bit more conscious of that so that my colorist Tracy doesn't go insane. You know, I think hello there. I'm gonna pronounce it Thiago Marquez. Sorry if I'm screwing that up. Yes, this is Star Wars related art. It's a commission I'm doing for based on the movie Star Wars Solo Story. Just a little more subtle coloring in certain areas. Go. Managed to say the name of Diego Marquez. Oh, well, I hope I can repeat it then. I probably just said it differently in that second time, didn't I? But thank you. I appreciate that. I do my best. Ooh. One thing I'm not doing right now is looking at the reference that I had set up. I did that a lot for the initial drawing, and I think that it's best if I kind of go on instinct here with the initial coloring. I remember what how the scene is lit and how it looks. I don't want to be too much of a slave to the way the movie looks. If you know what I mean, I want it to reflect my style a bit, and that means sort of just going for it. Oh, looks like there's a spot here that my wife did flat. I don't know why. There we go. Whoops. Yeah, it feels really good to find when I get to this stage of the of the work where I'm laying in the shadows and the forms are coming together, especially on things like this guy's hand. It looked really flat to me. Just in the line art form, and now it's got some shape to it. That's nice. Thiago Marquez on YouTube asks, "Hey Otis, how do you? Hold on. How do you think AI is affecting the illustration market?" Like a brush fire through a wheat field. I wish I could say differently, but it's gonna change things, and I don't think we know yet fully. I think we need to. There's going to be some lawsuits that need to play out, and I don't. We don't know how that's going to play out. I don't think anybody can say for sure yet. And I don't think that even people like me who are, in general, anti-AI art people, I don't even like calling it art, anti-AI image generation people, let's put it that way. Because, as I've said before, I could see myself using AI under certain conditions. Like if I could have an AI image generator that was only trained on my artwork, and I could use that to assist me in making comics. And I say assist, not make comics for me. I'm saying assist. I would absolutely use it if I could be guaranteed that the image generation would be based solely on my own work that I entered into the training models. But it's gonna be rough for certain illustrators with certain styles for a while, because their work is being used without their permission to train these AI models, and it's devastating, And so again, like I said, I'm not anti-AI across the board. I use AI for writing tools. I use AI to assist me in editing, line edits, things like that for my writing, for organizing thoughts. There's a great app called Audio Pen. You can just like speak into it or upload an audio file, and you can speak with all the ahs and uhs and horribly structured sentences, and it'll organize it into coherent thought. And I use that for my writing. I'll speak into a voice memo, then upload it, and I have one of the models I use is actually trained on my own writing. So I'm basically telling the AI, rewrite this the way I write, or not rewrite, but reorganize these thoughts into something that resembles the way that I write. It's very useful. I also use AI for line edits, for checking for spelling and grammar errors. Very, very useful for that. And I've used AI image generators. I've played around with them because I think every artist should, take a look at them to see what they can do before casting judgment. My judgment is still that it's basically theft if you're using it to create, quote unquote, new images. But there's. Let me see if I can show something. Some of my AI playing around. I took one of my own drawings of a robot one time recently and plugged it into an AI image generator. I forget which one it is, but it's one that's kind of designed to help out developmental artists, or concept artists. And man, it was fun. There's another one I plugged in and tried different things, and it's really cool seeing your work sort of painted like that. I would never use this for any other reason than like this kind of experimentation and fun. This is another one I use. I don't like how that turned out, but it was cool seeing. And this is really cool. It's fun, and it couldn't. And something like this, I know an artist who uses AI. He'll do a drawing. He's a great artist. He doesn't need AI to help him out, but he'll take one of his drawings, plug it into AI, and come up with a prompt, and the AI will come back with variations, and he'll use those variations to paint over, and then keep developing it. And this kind of thing can be useful to give artists ideas of where to take something. I think that's a very useful and ethical use of the technology, because I mean that is no different than looking at other artists' work and saying, where could I take my piece? You know what I mean? The problem arises if artists are using it just as a creation machine. That's not right. That's not creating something. That's just using technology to steal other people's work. So, not a fan of that. Not a fan of that. Another, and this is might annoy some people, because Adobe definitely deserves all the flack that they've gotten for their recent AI nonsense. But I did some experiments with Adobe's new generative expand function, I think it's called, where you go in and you crop an image, and it does its best to fill in the new empty areas. And I spent a little time playing with that and see what it was like. And there were times when I would use my own artwork, and it would fill in areas in a way that looked like I had painted it. It was really cool, and can be very helpful. Say if you want to reframe a piece of your own artwork, that can be very, very helpful, very time saving, especially for concept artists. Another thing I did that was fun, I don't know if I kept it or not. I probably did. I took screen caps from the movie The Wizard of Oz, which is not exactly square format, but it's slightly off. It's not a rectangle, it's not square, but it's like that. And I used the generative expand technology to go in and recrop it into a widescreen format and see how it did it at recreating the look of things for The Wizard of Oz. And I'll be darned if 90% of the time it filled in the areas with imagery that you would have thought was there to begin with. So it's pretty slick. It's pretty slick. I think AI is going to be used. I hope I'm not rambling here, but you asked. It's going to be used more than we want it to as artists. But I also think they're going to come up with ways for it to be used by real artists in their work to assist them and help them along in the process. Like I said, if I could use it to help me make comics, I would, because I do my own comics, and it's a lot of work. And if it's just a way I could help, get some help taking care of certain things, I would definitely take that help. That was a long answer to a short question. I apologize. Someday soon, I hope, I want to do a live stream or multiple live streams where I talk about AI and show what I've just been talking about. It's basically a case use. Is it case use or is it use case? I forget the terminology. But to show how it can be used by artists ethically to assist them. The one thing that I think a lot of us need to accept is, and boy, do we hate hearing this as artists, but it is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to go away. We do need to adapt. We don't need to accept thievery, but we do need to, I think, adapt to the new technology in a way that will benefit us. And that requires not ignoring it, not ignoring the AI tech, but keeping tabs on it as it's developed. You know what I mean? So I do keep tabs on it. I go and try different things just to see, where the tech is at. One thing for indie comic creators or indie, and it's actually, AI is big in the indie book world, which I'm about to enter at the beginning of next year. What I mean by that is novels, but it's indie authors have really embraced it, and they understand how to use it in mostly ethical ways. I think that some indie authors are a little too quick to use it for book covers, but it can be really helpful. And another cool thing is, like, if you're an indie creator and you want to do promotion, but you have very little resources when it comes to, like, paying for things, like hiring somebody to do a book launch video, or just basic things. The AI tools that help with video generation, and skin tone's off there. Let's fix this. With video and music generation can be super helpful, because in those cases you're not trying to pass off original creations as your own. It gets a little more complicated in the realm of music generation. And again, there are lawsuits that are going to clear that up, but it can be helpful. Can be super helpful. So there's your answer. I try to keep tabs on the AI tools as they are developed. Oh, one thing I was going to say is for like promotion purposes, I've used Chat GPT to generate book blurbs for the back of books. It's really helpful for that. If you go in, because one of the hardest things as a writer or a comic creator is creating those synopses of your story. It's, for some reason, that's really, really difficult to do as the writer of the piece, because you're sort of fighting against your own instincts to tell too much. But if you go in and basically do the basics and tell Chat GP to create a book blurb for you, it's really good at that. It's really good at that. Another thing that I've used Chat GTP and AudioPen to, sometimes. So I'm adapting the Patchwork Girl of Oz into a comic series, and to help me during the writing / adapting stage, or adaptation stage, I've taken text from the book, plugged it into Chat GTP, and told it to rewrite the selection into a screenplay format using all of the existing dialogue. So it basically takes the prose that Baum wrote and makes it like a screenplay. And it's really good at that too. It's really good at that. And it does really well for the reverse too. One of the books I'm working on, novels, is I wrote it as a comic script a graphic novel sized comic strip a long time ago, and I'm taking it piece by piece, entering it into audio pen, and using my own writing model to rewrite the comic script into prose, and it gives me something that I can work on to edit instead of looking at the blank page, and that's also really helpful. And again, I'm using my own work, as the model to reformat it. So that to me is an ethical use of AI for creative purposes. What time is it? 1:41. Okay. Diego Marquez says, "No worries. I knew it was a short but deep question, so I'm glad you didn't give it a simple, flat answer." Thanks. I didn't want to give it a simple answer because it's a complex subject, and I fear that some of the people who are just sort of anti-AI across the board, they might find themselves kicking themselves for the sort of narrow funnel they've put themselves in when it comes to how these tools can help, and they might find themselves feeling a little bit like hypocrites. They shouldn't. They should just adjust, but they're going to be accused of being hypocrites by some, which is unfortunate. And I don't think that's fair. They're professionals who see a genuine threat to their livelihood by people who don't seem to understand what the technology is really doing. So it's difficult. It's a tough thing to navigate. And I could imagine other artists will have a problem with my take on it, which I'm not trying to thread a needle or be neutral. I have very specific ideas, which I hopefully have, laid out here. But it's not the black and white version that I think some people are looking for. Diego Marquez also says, "I actually use it a lot for organizing my thoughts as well." Yeah, it's great for that kind of thing, especially audio pen. I can't say enough about audio pen. I was an early adopter to the lifetime purchase for audio pen, so that because I was so impressed with how it. I mean, writing like newsletters can take a lot of time as a indie creator, but if you just are talking into your phone, all your thoughts, and then using a specific model that's designed to sort of take thoughts and reorganize it into a casual blog post, so to speak, that can save you a lot of time during the week to getting back to doing the creative work that you're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? That's the most important part to me, is finding tools that help me get to save time so that I can do the creative work, which is what I'm supposed to be doing. That's paramount. Anything that takes away from that should be seen as suspect, which is one reason why when I see a lot of comic creators doing Kickstarters and just dousing their Kickstarter campaign in sort of bonus rewards and extras that are going to take time to create, all I can think is, oh, that's such a mistake. I've done Kickstarters, and anything that takes away from the actual creation of more comics or books or games or whatever it is you're really doing, you're going to kick yourself. It's so using AI to help with the automation of things that are sucking up time, which is both energy and money, it can be very helpful. All right, I'm going to jump in and do the secondary shading for these characters real quick, and that might bring me to the end of the show today. It's going to be it's a holiday week, and so I won't be having a show. I'll be having live streams today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And then I won't be back until Monday because I'm going out of town to. I'm sequestering myself for a couple of days to get some work done. So I'm going out of town, so I won't be doing any shows. Got to play catch up on some things. And sometimes when I'm working on a project and need to kick myself in the butt a bit, I'll do that. I'll go away, get a hotel room or something, and just focus on work. That's what I'm going to do. But it's going to serve double duty because I'm going to be visiting the town where I grew up, and it's going to help me with something that I'm working on, something nostalgia based. So, I'm going to visit the old stomping ground and get some work done. That should be fun. One time when I had to like sequester myself to finish a project, I decided to go visit Gettysburg, which I've been wanting to. And I ended up spending time working on some writing and then visiting the Gettysburg memorial areas for a few hours each day. That was cool. But it's always fun to get away. I'm a homebody, but even I need to get out once in a while, and it's been a while. I mean, I'm like a severe homebody. I usually don't want to go anywhere. Okay. Oh, I forgot here. Let's do the secondary. Okay. Let's see, what time is it? 1:48. I got about 12 minutes. Let's tackle the foreground guys for the remaining 12 minutes of the show, and then we'll call it a day. I gotta fix colors on this guy. She didn't really shade him because she didn't have reference. That's okay. Diego Marquez says, I always use Procreate. Would you mind telling me more about your processes? It's kind of an open-ended question. It's a little more open-ended than the question about AI. I'd be happy to answer specific questions, and definitely, if you want to know about my Procreate process, watching my live streams here when I'm working in Procreate, which is usually is a good way of learning about that. So if you have any specific questions, please let me know. Sorry that one had to be so brief, and that question had to be so brief and unenlightening. But it's hard to answer such an open-ended question, because there's so many different aspects to how I work in Procreate, and it's sometimes I'm working more painterly. Sometimes I'm doing something like this, which is more like a cell shaded kind of style. All right, that didn't take too long. No worries at all. Yeah, the best thing to do, I guess, would, if you want to hit me up for some Procreate knowledge, which I do have. I use Procreate a lot, and so I know about it. Come back to my next live stream where I'm working on Procreate, or even if I'm not working Procreate, feel free to ask specific questions. But when it comes to process stuff in Procreate, the best thing you can do is just ask very specific questions. Very specific questions. Then I can really answer without, presuming what you really mean, or presuming your level of knowledge, that kind of thing. All right, so this is where we're at. I might need to pump up the saturation on the characters a little bit, because it's looking, even though the actual scenes are very, very sort of brownish, this is a little bit too much. I'll know more when I get everybody shaded, but it's starting to come together. Diego Marcus asks, do you work mid-tone to extremes or dark to light? Well, as you can see, from having watched me work here, I'm working light to dark mostly. I tend to think in terms of laying down shadow areas and sort of cutting away from the existing light. Like I treat it like it's lit from every angle, and then I paint in shadows like this, always knowing, like I showed here, where the light source is. All right, and we'll have to end with that little tip there. And there's other ways I deal with lighting. So, do you use separate flats layers or just ones? For this piece, I have 3 groups. Here, so I can show you how I organized it real quick. take away everything. So I have, whoops. Looks like I'm glad I did that because there's something in there that I don't want there. Come on. So this is broken up into foreground characters here, as you can see. They have their own folder with different layers. And the midground characters, they also have their own folder full of layers. Oops. And then the background characters, which also have their own folder and set of layers. I keep everything separated by sort of category. So that's how I work. So I'm able to keep it all separate. All right, that's going to have to be it for today. Thanks so much for the questions, Diego Marquez. I really appreciate you hanging out with me. Anybody else who was watching or will be watching the replay, I hope you enjoyed it. And I will be back tomorrow, probably at 1 p.m. Central, to do more work. Please like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I will see you then. Take care.